Hey Guardians, I just want to let everyone know that I do have both a Twitch and a Twitter, and I'm very active on both. Feel free to come give me a follow on both, links in the description. This is the best legendary PvP shotgun in the game. I'm not joking. While comp might be in a bad place, at the very least Bungie's nailed pretty much every single comp weapon they've dropped, and Deadlock is no exception. This shotgun is a monster. In fact, one could pretty safely call Revenant the season of the shotgun because we've seen a lot of good shotguns this season. Prophet of Doom, Deadlock, Sojourner's Tale, and Legato are all extremely good, and today we're talking about Deadlock, a stasis precision frame shotgun from the comp playlist. And just to be clear right now, this is an S tier shotgun for PvP. There are a couple of interesting combos for PvE that we'll talk about very briefly, but this is a PvP shotgun, and thus this will be a PvP focused review. And just to make one thing clear, if you play PvP, you need this shotgun. And I know that comp sucks, but remember, you just have to play your weekly comp matches. You do not have to win them, just complete them. You can do 3 matches on each character for 1 shotgun per character every week, and I would recommend doing this because yes, Deadlock is absolutely worth the awfulness that is comp. So let's talk about what makes this shotgun so good. So first off, I want you to take a look at the perk pool on your screen. This is about as good a perk pool as you're going to get for a pellet shotgun. Do I wish we had quick draw instead of slick draw? Yes, but in this case, and we'll talk about why, you don't need quick draw or slick draw. So keeping in mind, range and handling are the most important stats on a PvP shotgun. Let's talk about your barrel, mag, masterwork, and stocks first. Starting with your barrel, I would go with barrel shroud, though depending on your overall role, you could also get away with small bore or corkscrew for a little extra range, and we'll talk more about that later. Then for your magazine, accurized rounds for 10 range, or assault mag if you want a slightly higher rate of fire. Personally, I prefer accurized. For your masterwork, definitely go with range. Then you have stocks. Remember, on the comp weapons, instead of an origin trait, you'll typically have stocks or grips in the case of Rose, and these are a huge part of what set these comp weapons aside, because they give you major stat boosts. In the case of Deadlock, you can disregard every stock except for short action stock. This is by far the best choice on Deadlock because there are no stocks that give range, and short action stock will just give you a flat plus 15 to your handling with no downsides. So, with Barrel Shroud, Accurized, a ranged masterwork, and short action stock, you have 89 range with an effective reach of 6.4 meters and 72 handling. Fantastic stats for a shotgun. Now, jumping into those last 2 columns. In the 3rd column, you have Barrel Constrictor, Lone Wolf, Slick Draw, Slide Shot, and Threat Detector. Then in the 4th, Closing Time, Desperate Measures, 1-2 Punch, and Opening Shot. A truly incredible perk pool for a PvP shotgun. Now, talking combos here, we'll start with my favorites, and what you go with in that 3rd column will really depend on what you want in that 4th column. Now, we talked in depth about Closing Time in my Prophet of Doom review, and why, in my opinion at least, it's quite possibly the best perk for a shotgun, at least if you want to use your shotgun defensively, and that's mainly because of the massive boost it gives to your handling if the weapon's magazine is below 50% loaded. And like we talked about in the Prophet of Doom review, it is a huge, very noticeable boost to your handling. Your swap speed is almost instantaneous. And this really opens up your options in that 3rd column quite a lot. Normally, Threat Detector would be my top recommendation in that 3rd column, and it is still a very good choice, but Closing Time also makes the others extremely good choices, since Closing Time is taking care of your handling. So yes, you could go with Threat Detector, Closing Time, and double up on handling perks. They do stack, and you have the benefit of still having Threat Detector helping your handling, and thus your swap speed if you do get above that 50% mark on your magazine. But if you can keep your mag below that 50% mark, which on this weapon means 1 to 2 shells in the tube, then you could go with Slide Shot to boost your range on a slide and still have Closing Time taking care of your handling. Or you could go with Lone Wolf for a boost to your aim assist, AE, and aim down sight speed. Lone Wolf gives you plus 10 aim assist, plus 10 AE, and a 0.9 ADS multiplier at base, and those effects are doubled when no allies are near you. And this will be good in literally any PvP realm, and this is by far the best option if you're someone who lives in the Rumble playlist, or if you just want to have something boosting your effectiveness in a 1v3 in something like Trials. And if you do opt for closing time, then you could get away with corkscrew or small bore for a little more range and keep your handling so long as you avoid having more than 2 shells in the tube. Now, just to be clear, opening shot is still a very, very good perk on shotguns. The range boost is nice, but the big reason opening shot shotguns feel more consistent with the one-shot kill than shotguns without it is because of the aim assist boost, because this does still matter on pellet shotguns, and yes, this does still matter on M&K. Now, if you wanted to go with opening shot, then obviously the first choice in the third column is threat detector for the handling boost. But due to short action stock giving you a huge boost to your handling, if you're using something like Ophidians, a class item with Ophidians, speedloader slacks, or really any exotic that boosts your handling and swap speed, then slide shot and lone wolf are still perfectly viable options. Now, personally, in that last column, I'm still looking for closing time because I want the handling. From there, to be perfectly honest, I could get slide shot, threat detector, or lone wolf and be perfectly happy. The main thing I'm looking for is handling, because with people playing like this,
oh my god.
Jesus Christ, dude. Dumbass. Having a fast shotgun is borderline a requirement to make PvP feel playable. So far, the best roll I have does have closing time. The rest of the roll, and I'll put it on your screen now, isn't what I want, but even so, this shotgun still feels incredible and it does exactly what I need it to. So hopefully the RNG gods will bless me in the future, because if they do, this becomes my new go-to shotgun in the kinetic slot. Now, I will also briefly mention some more niche options. First off, in the third column, you do also have Barrel Constrictor, a kill perk that will tighten your pellet spread on a kill. Now, given that I mostly use shotguns defensively, I'm more interested in having rolls that keep my shotgun consistent at all times, but this is still an option, and one of few shotguns where I'd consider it. I would go with Constrictor and Closing Time if you want to have something that might enable you to win a 2v1, or Constrictor and Opening Shot if you just want to hoard ammo and then maybe fly at a team and go for clips or something like that. Outside of that, in the fourth column, you do have 1-2 Punch if you want to ensure that a melee follow-up will kill, or Trench Barrel if you maybe want to pair it with Grave Robber and try it with some funny melee builds. And you do also have Desperate Measures as well for a more standard damage perk in the fourth column. But even with those other options, I would still prefer to have a roll that just keeps my shotgun at a more consistent level at all times, rather than being reliant on abilities or kills, so the rolls I mentioned previously are still my top picks. Now, very briefly, I just want to get PvE out of the way before going back to PvP. You do have a couple of options here. Like I said in the Prophet of Doom review, as far as shotguns go, I typically look at pellet shotguns as being best suited for melee builds, and for that purpose, I still prefer rapid fires or lightweights just for the more generous ammo economy. And as general utility weapons, I still think that slugs are a better choice. But all that being said, in the third column you do have Grave Robber, then in the fourth column you have Bait and Switch, Cascade Point, 1-2 Punch, and Trench Barrel. Now, for melee builds, obviously Grave Robber with 1-2 Punch or Trench Barrel, 1-2 Punch being my preferred option here. And really, the only other scenario I might consider this shotgun would be in one of very few instances where a pellet shotgun might be useful in a DPS rotation. In that instance, there isn't a ton in that third column, but you do have Cascade Point and Bait and Switch in the fourth. But again, please keep in mind there are very, very few places in PvE where a pellet shotgun would be useful for DPS, so keep that in mind. So overall, I would not take this thing into PvE, but in PvP it is incredible. This is the best legendary PvP shotgun in the game by a lot. It's consistent, it's fast, and it is a stat monster. Deadlock feels snappy, responsive, and it does exactly what I need it to. So I really only have one major complaint about this shotgun, and that's just that it's in the kinetic slot. Look, for PvP, pretty much all of our best in archetype options for pellet shotguns are in the kinetic slot, such as precision frames, Deadlock, Someday, Fractithus, aggressive frames, Imperial Decree and Astral Horizon, lightweight frames, Swordbreaker and Wastelander, even rapid fire frames, which I would consider exclusively PvE weapons, you have Perfect Paradox. I mean, even if we're talking exotic shotguns, you have Conditional and While It's a Slug, Chaperone, both of which are in the kinetic slot. And yes, I am very much aware that Deadlock in the kinetic slot means you can run LCs or Igneous with it, but come on, how much more of a reason do you actually need to run those guns anyway? So honestly, I would really just like to see an energy precision frame that can keep up with the kinetic slot options. But regardless, all that being said, this is a must-have shotgun. If you play PvP, you should be playing your comp matches every week for it. Deadlock is better than Someday, and it's better than Fractithus, so jump into comp and just get your weekly matches over with, and the instant you get your roll, then hey, you don't have to touch comp again unless you want your rose focuses. Yes, comp is an awful place, but Deadlock is 100% worth it. And that's all from me today, Guardians. If you enjoyed this video, then do me a favor and hit that like button and leave me a comment with the role you want on Deadlock. As always, don't forget to hit that subscribe button with the bell icon and check the description for my other links. But for now, I'll see you all in the next video. Peace, Guardians.